Coming up on In Your Neighborhood, you can step back in time to visit Watsontown's past at its new museum on Main Street. Plus, we'll visit the Olde Stone Tavern and Inn on Route 54 and tell you about its past. Welcome to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Chris O'Rourke, and our area is rich in history. And in Watsontown, they're taking their love of history to the next level by opening up a museum with all kinds of artifacts inside. And we were here for part of its red carpet premiere. It is perhaps the most precious item at the new Watsontown Area Historical Museum. The Fulmer family Bible dates back to the 1600s. It was written in German, made it through Indian attacks, and some time in Limestone Run, and was eventually given to the Historical Association. It is now the centerpiece of the museum's Faith Room, and will only be brought out for big occasions like this, the opening weekend for the museum. We stopped by in mid-August at the start of their big celebration weekend to get a tour of the place, and were bowled over by all it has to offer. What was even more amazing to us was to learn that the Watsontown Historical Association was able to pull this together in just 15 months.
It was March 17th of 2017 that the Santander decided to close the branch here.
Okay.
And the building basically sat empty for the next 6 years. And the borough had purchased from Santander, and they were hoping to do something with it, but it turned out that they
COVID
happened.
COVID happened, so it kind of spoiled some things.
But we began negotiating with them about purchasing it, and we paid the price that they paid. So it was they weren't making money off of it. The blessing for the town is that now there's a park and there's municipal parking just south of the building that was before reserved for bank business. So, but yeah, so we did a lot of late nights trying to figure out things, and we had to come up again. We were a fledgling organization.
Yeah, it's not like we had the money to just buy a building outright. We had to do fundraising, and actually we held a gala in March of 2022 where that one night we made a lot, and we were able to purchase the building and take possession of it in May of 2022.
One of the people on hand for the events on this day was State Senator Linda Schlegel Culver, who was a state rep at the time, and along with her predecessor John Gordner, was able to secure a $150,000 grant for the renovations. The association used that money, along with donations, mainly from that big gala fundraiser, to purchase the building. Unfortunately, as is often the case with buildings that sit vacant for too long, it wasn't in good shape.
We came in and we uncovered fireplaces and beautiful hardwood floors, beautiful stairs and railings and things that basically people just covered up, and thankfully they covered them up by boxing them in, and yeah, it actually protected them, yeah. But there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears because everything needed cleaned and vacuumed and painted and repaired. We were blessed with woodworkers and some very strong-willed volunteers despite being of the older generation. I mean, these people have come here every day, myself being one of the younger ones here, you know. So it's actually amazing what we've got accomplished. It really is. If we needed heavy lifting or a group of guys, Kathy would put it out there, or I'd put it out there, and we'd show up and there'd be 25 people here ready to lift whatever we needed. So we were really blessed in that way. They might have not been here every day, but they were on call, you know what I mean? So it was nice to have them available. We always knew we'd get the job done. We didn't know how at times, but we knew we'd get it done.
And they did get it done, with some pieces of the bank still in use. There are 5 bank vaults throughout the building, including the Farmers National Bank vault in the lobby, which was the original cash vault, but now houses the bank's history. It also has this cool ventilation and lighting system that still works, and good thing too, because this vault could still close and lock. There's also the bank industry vault, which housed the old safe deposit boxes and now holds the local banking histories. Another vault is at the back of the building in the community room and will be converted into a kitchenette, while the 4th will hold the Bible in the faith room and the 5th can be found in the research center. That's also where you'll find a very inconspicuous counter that is a bank holdover, and of course, there are the drive-through tubes, which still work. The association had a vision for what would be in the building, and while some rooms changed since then, the lobby was always going to be the lobby, along with the research room, the community room, the living room, and the faith room.
The majority of the rooms have become what we originally thought they would be. So I think it's that clarity that kind of helps you complete the project, because you know what's going where.
And the fact that we have the room where we were at during this sesquicentennial, we rented a storefront. What had been Swope's Pharmacy at one time. It's now
Buck's Plumbing.
Oh, okay.
Up on the corner.
Mm-hmm. Great location.
Yeah.
But we just didn't have the room for everything that we were getting, and that became problematic. Where are we going to go with this stuff? We don't want to lose it, but we can't display it, so.
And we couldn't store it.
And we couldn't store it.
You know, everybody had everything. We started like busting at the seams, really.
So once people became aware that you existed 6 years ago, the stuff started coming in.
Oh yeah.
Right away.
Oh yeah, right away. When
it.
we first did that museum on the corner, we were just inundated. We were like, this isn't big enough.
Somebody, I don't know if it's loaned or gave the bench that used to sit in front of the old railroad station for people
That's
to wait.
donated, yep.
It's huge. It's like, where are you going to put this? Well, now it's in the lobby. You almost don't even notice it because it fits so well.
Right. You have the room to do it, and then it looks nice.
The result is an entertaining stroll that takes you in a circle through the building. You'll start in the lobby, of course, with all it has to offer, and you can either go left or right. If you head left, you'll start in the school section with reminders of classroom days past. Keep going and you'll hit that living room, complete with one of the fireplaces you heard about being uncovered. There are stairs that head to the 2nd floor, but they are currently being blocked by a mannequin in period dress. You'll then head into the Ralph and Josephine Smith Research Library, where you can look up local history or the genealogy of your family history. There's talk of getting high school students involved in historical research projects here. A quick trip down the hallway brings you to the community room, which on this day was all decked out for the big events with raffles and other items, but in the future could be used for community gatherings. There's also a plan in place to allow nonprofits to meet here. And we're talking from throughout the area, not just Watsontown. So White Deer, Allenwood, New Columbia, and Dewar. Possibly use that vault kitchenette and then maybe help staff the museum for a set number of hours. You can then head down the military hallway, which leads to the faith room, where the Bible sits along with an antique organ and a piece of stained glass that is slated to be refurbished and hung in this room. The next stop will be a popular one for many, and maybe Erica's favorite room, a replica of the old Watson Theater up the street. From a marquee out front that was made by a volunteer to the very heavy old projector inside, some seats, and other sights. Another room here features music from the past, and the rest of this area spotlights area veterans and military uniforms from the past and present. What's neat to think about as you're walking through the building is that it isn't a new building. It too has plenty of history.
But the original building was built about 1860. And when we talked about what are we going to cover the floor with, because we're going to rip the stuff up and put something down, and was like, why would you cover those boards tell a history? This is the way it looked like when the people in the early days would come in to get. It was actually a hardware store, and the lower half was like a general merchandise store.
When it
When
first
it was
started?
first built.
Okay.
First built.
It was known as the Hogue Building, and that was a prominent family in this area as far back as the Revolution.
Oh, wow.
So, and then John Hogue's son, Dan Hogue, continued the business. He went on to become Chief Burgess at one time.
Oh.
And then in 1886, the Farmers National Bank was chartered, and they needed a place, and they rented the northern half of the Hogue Building for the bank. And then over the years, just acquired more and more. Actually, they purchased the building from the Hogues in, I think, 1892. And it just, it ended up becoming 4 or 5 properties.
Yeah.
So from the alley over to First Street.
It's like 5 deeds.
The other interesting thing that I learned this day is that the Historical Association hasn't been around all that long, just 6 years. It was started by James, who not only got the group going by twisting a few arms, but began his own historical journey of sorts with his hometown, writing a book about it, My Watsontown, a labor of love that covers the town's history from its start in 1728 to 2017. So after a weekend with a ribbon cutting and tours, entertainment and dedication ceremonies, the museum began to settle into its routine, with hours on Tuesdays from 10 until 2, Thursdays from 6 until 8, and Fridays from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. They also will open on the first and third weekend of every month on Saturday and Sunday from 1 until 4. They also will open by appointment if you can't make it during these times. Contact them by email at wha1867@yahoo.com or call 570-538-1777. And as they move forward, the plan is to mix up the themes at the museum.
Our acquisitions manager is hoping that each year will close down for a month after Christmas. And they will go through and they will change out the displays for many of the things and bring things that weren't in. So that way it'll keep people's local interest.
We have enough to rotate several of the different rooms. So it is nice. And we've talked about various themes and things that we'll add to and can rotate through, so it's nice. She's also been inundated already with people like, I want to do this or I want you to do that. So it is really quite nice, the generosity and the enthusiasm of the community.
So we're going to keep doing the gala since it was such a success.
Yeah.
And it was a success not so much that it raised money, which it did, but it brought a spirit to the community, and everybody had such a good time. So we're hoping to have a masquerade fundraiser in November, and we have started a tradition at Christmas time when the Watsontown Area Business Association, or WABA, does their Santa comes to town. We started doing, we would be open for people to come in, and we do Wet Your Whistle with Wassel and Watsontown. And so it's a tongue twister.
And we like our wassail.
Yes, we do.
This is a true classic museum in every sense. There's plenty to see, and there's even stuff to do, and a classic photo op spot like this with the Watson Theater seats here and even a popcorn container. When we come back, we will take you to a spot that you've probably driven by a lot, but may not know the history about.
Hello everybody, I'm Carl Bauer. Join me as we sit down with some local sports legends of the past. From state champions to gold medalists, we catch up and find out whatever happened to those fantastic local athletes. Join me every Monday at 2 and 6 p.m. for Catching Up with Carl, only on Service Electric Cablevision, channel 508 HD.
It is a familiar sight for the thousands of motorists that pass by it daily on Route 54 between Mount Carmel and Elysburg. While some may know its history and what its current reincarnation is, others like me had no idea. When a colleague said I should do a segment on the Olde Stone Tavern and Inn, I didn't know what it was until I looked it up and said, "Oh, that building." It's only been open as the Olde Stone for about 2 years, so if you haven't been here, then you don't know what lies inside. Or the fact that there's an outdoor dining area, a large pavilion, or a rooster that will come after you if you get close to his ladies. We stopped by last month to hear all about the history of the place and what it took to get it to its present state. Owner Mary Lenig started circling it on her bike a few years ago, saw the state of disrepair it was in, knew it would only get worse, and began to think about what it could be again, eventually deciding to buy the old building from Aqua Water next door. What followed was about 2 years of hurdles, blood, and sweat to get it to where it is today.
There's this joke that I have these manic moments, and when I tend to buy something, or this isn't my first building that I rehabbed, I have, those eyes of what it can be. And I'm irrational with what the work and the cost could be. And one day I was here and 2 men showed up. I was working on the floor of the porch. And they said, we like to invest in the area. We think this is gonna be, could we see your business plan? And I said, what is that? And they said, well, you wouldn't even take a project on like this unless you had a business plan. And I said, oh, well, I did. So what does that make me? So all along, I had done some research on the house. I knew it was a gathering spot. I knew a lot of just the location. It was a positive area for people to gather. So I wanted to go down that route. I wanted to be able, the bikers and hikers, to be able to come over here. I travel out west a lot. I used to. And I love the outdoor setting. I love to be outside and have a dinner or have your family's party. We didn't have hardly anything like that in the area. So that was my vision for the place. But it could become anything it had to become to make it happen. The ultimate goal was to button up the house, to make the house stop falling apart.
And one area that Mary pointed out to us that was in pretty rough shape was the beautiful wraparound porch, which had pulled away from the house. Mary said she could have just replaced it, but saw the old hand-hewn logs supporting it and decided to return it to its past state as an amazing spot to hang out and enjoy the view. Mary did a lot of the work on the house along with her contractor, from tile to ragging and painting and ripping stuff out. She also was quite the landscaper, having planted thousands of flowers and vegetables around the property, including a big garden behind the house that she was pulling vegetables out of while we were videotaping. The Olde Stone features one dining area that dates back to 1810 and another main room with 2 large fireplaces and beautiful beams across the ceiling. The second floor has 3 huge rooms that can be rented. They're basically suites with a living area and bathroom, although one has the tiniest doorway you may ever see. It also has a bar area with a very unique door. Well, technically it's a gate.
And then one of my properties in Cole Township, I had this gate made for. And I called up there and had a friend look up the measurements, and they fit almost dead on enough that we could do this. And then we measured the height, it fit. So we brought it here. We were so excited about it, but it was so heavy. And we bolted it in, and we didn't even go to open it to right here, and it stopped because the floor was warped. I call this gate Backyard Scrap, and the artist is Mike Moser. And I went to his house one day and said, pick up all this scrap and make me a gate, and that's where the gate came from. So what we did is we put, I ran downstairs and got washers, and it worked, but as the seasons change, so does the gate.
Mary doesn't advertise at all, and the Olde Stone is only open on weekends because it's hard to get help, and the employees she has mostly have other full-time jobs. The only way you can see the menu or see what hours it's open on the weekends is to visit the Friends of the Olde Stone Facebook page. The Olde Stone also handles a lot of events, thanks to the big pavilion in the back, the outdoor seating area, and the power that is the building. She told us that weekends this month are booked solid, with September usually their busiest time of the year for weddings. Some either rent the patio and house, the pavilion and patio, or if it's a wedding, they'll rent the entire grounds. She also joked that they ask people holding events here if it's okay to leave her animals outside. The ducks, the chickens, most importantly that rooster, and last that 90% say yes. And Mary thinks it's because they want the rooster to go after Aunt Bertha. So the structure was built 213 years ago. And Mary says it was never intended to be a house, but a place of business. This is the second incarnation of it. The first version John Gilger built way back then burned down. So he decided to build the second one with stone walls that are 2 feet thick. It was originally a stagecoach stop on the Center Turnpike, which ran from Philadelphia to Reading and then on to what is now Sunbury, but was then called Shamokin. In between, the stagecoaches with the Conestoga Wagon Company would come over top of the Natalie Mountain from Mount Carmel to here, so 3 miles up and 3 miles down. Very tough on the stagecoach, its horses and riders. You would pay a toll and change your horses. The riders would get a bite to eat and possibly take their bunk up to get a little sleep.
This fireplace would never have gone out 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even if it was 90 degrees outside. It was your hot water, it was your food, it was your everything. And then all the different things. This is a bed warmer, you know, this is to roast chestnuts with. The practicality of what people used to have to do just to do everyday life is pretty interesting. Their day was occupied with surviving in 1810.
Eventually, a general store was added to the site, and then it became a post office. The old turnpike still exists. You can see sections of it behind the Olde Stone, but it continues onto Aqua property. You also can see the Olde Stone mile markers for the turnpike along the way if you look closely enough. Another item of note is the stone structure that is now connected to the Olde Stone. At one point, it wasn't, and that's where they would slaughter the animals to feed the passengers. There also at one time was a blacksmith on the grounds, a church and school in the woods, and several other structures, including a large barn where the garden is now, and you can still see parts of its foundation. The structure has changed hands at least 4 times, with Mary being the 4th owner. When Aqua owned it, the CEO would stay here from time to time, and they would occasionally hold meetings here, but eventually stopped because people believed it was haunted. You can find the old stone on haunted websites, and Mary says that's possible and told us she has had two peculiar things happen here. Once, she saw a man leaning against the outside wall at the back of the house when no one should have been there. And the other occurred inside late one night.
Mold was a big issue in this house because it was locked up and all the pipes were broken, so there was water damage everywhere and no air moving. So every night I'd open up the windows. I had some people open up the windows. We had big fans running. And I closed up for the whole night, and I had two old English sheepdogs, and they were 15, Sunshine and Gracie. And I would pick them up because their hips, it was bad. And I made my way through the dark out of the house, and as I got to the last door in the oldest room of the house, the door slammed in my face, like ridiculously slammed in my face, and my two dogs yiped and they ran back, and I wasn't in the mood for it at all. So we had a little conversation, and the conversation was, I'm on the winning team, and you know it and I know it, and it'll be zero tolerance here. And I laid it at the foot of the cross. I don't mess with any of that dark stuff. For the people who are open to it, maybe they do experience stuff. It's not for me to say.
We also can't talk about the house without talking about Mary. She grew up in Cole Township with a strong work ethic and a sense of adventure. She has climbed many big mountains around the world and has taken on many different occupations, from landlord to salon owner to running an outdoor experience program for at-risk kids, which she calls the love of her life. She also nearly made it on Survivor, and that led to her being on season 2 of The Amazing Race. She and her sister Peach teamed up, and while many thought they would be the second pair to exit, they made it to the final 5, eventually getting booted in Hong Kong. Getting back to the house, Mary says that as the grounds get bigger, she has to fight the urge to purchase more plants. Otherwise, she is very happy with it right now, strolling the grounds with her buddy Elby always right behind her. If you stop by, you'll definitely enjoy the outdoor spots, especially on a nice night. But you'll also find yourself being drawn in by the energy of the house. It just feels like every nook and cranny is filled with a piece of history or a story. Like these 2 leather chairs. I sat in one, which led Mary to tell me a story that not only sums her up, but also the house and our area.
One day I got a call for a funeral, to do the funeral dinner, because we have a cemetery right down the road, All Saints. And we had the biggest, most wicked snowstorm. It was horrible. And I even called the family and I said to them, you know, I'm willing to change the date if you want me to change the date. I couldn't even plow the driveway and it would fill right back up, and it was icy. And we all know this is one of the hardest mountains to go over in the wintertime. A lot of times they close it down. And they said to me, no, families flying in from all over, it has to be on this date. I said, if it works for you, I'll make it work. So we had paths out there, only paths. And you know, it's one thing, you just buried a loved one, you're in a horrific weather, you're soaking wet, and they weren't sure about the house. They didn't know about the house. And they came in and all 3 fireplaces were burning. And the person's brother, who was, he was older, he came in, took off all his wet jackets and his hat, and he sat there with the fire burning, and he said, my sister loved this house. And I feel like we're at home, and I feel like we're everywhere we should be today. And it was just really nice. It's actually moments like that on the days you think, I just don't want to do this anymore. It's moments like that you think, to me, the Coal Region people are the most tenacious people. I've traveled the world. Coal Region people are amazing people. I might not even like you, and I'll support you. You know, and when I get to be part of something like that, then I feel like, well, I'm here for the right reason.
Once again, that Facebook page is Friends of the Old OLDE Stone, to find out when they're open and what's on the menu. And that's going to do it for season 13. We'll see you again in January when we'll bring you all new episodes. I'm your host, Chris O'Rourke. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next time, maybe in your neighborhood.